welcome to the Creative Grove. I'm Ingrid Blackburn, and today we're going to create this beautiful ombre effect using a faux torn edge and some stipple brushes. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to use a piece of copy paper and we're going to do a little paper tearing. And when you're tearing, you always want to tear towards you, and that helps give you that really pretty surface on the left piece. So we are going to actually use the piece on the right to start. If you do use the piece to the left, just make sure that you flip it over. You see that nice feathery part that I was pointing to? We don't want to have that on the top. You want that on the underside. Usually when you're tearing for an edge around something, that's what you're looking for, is to have those beautiful layers. But in this case, we don't want that showing. So what we're doing is we're basically masking off the right side of our card. And paper tearing gives you a beautiful edge. It's a great way to create some interest and dimension into a one-layer card without actually adding a layer. So we're going to use some Post-it notes to secure our project down. We have a top folding 4¼ inch wide by 11 inch tall card, and I'm masking off the top because I don't want to get any of that color onto the back of the card, as well as securing the piece down. And then we're going to take one more Post-it note and secure the base of our torn piece to our craft mat. So we're going to use several colors of distress ink. The first color I'm using is Scattered Straw, which is the lightest yellow. Then we're going to use some Wild Honey, some Spice Marmalade, Ripe Persimmon, and Barn Door. I'm also going to use Mustard Seed, which is not pictured here, because I'm going to want to brighten this up a little bit. So Scattered Straw is a rather muted yellow, and what you see here is a stipple brush. This is a very unique bristle brush, and I'm showing you the pop technique right there. I have another video that I'll link to right here. A stipple brush helps put down lots of little dots of color. You don't want to smash it down, you want to just kind of pop it down. We're going to start off by adding the lightest shade, which is Scattered Straw, and this is going to serve as an undercoating for all of our colors. From there we're going to add Mustard Seed to the very top, but first we're going to start off with the Wild Honey, which is the warmest yellow that we have, and that is going to really help to be a color to help intensify the oranges, which are going to be mostly to the bottom. And so we're going to keep it towards the center of the card by just bringing it in a little tiny bit to the bottom. You can see I went back into the Scattered Straw just to add a little bit to the top. Here's the Mustard Seed. You can see it's a much brighter yellow. When you're working with any distress colors, really, as you add deeper colors into your project, always come back over it with your lighter color, and what that will do is it will help to give you an effortless blend. You can see how much more vibrant that Mustard Seed is. I kind of kept that to the top. I didn't want to add too much to the bottom, and now I'm coming back in it with some Wild Honey to deepen it up, give it more of a golden look rather than such a bright yellow. Once we've brightened the upper portion up with the Mustard Seed, we're going to then concentrate on bringing that Wild Honey in. You can see the transition starting to form here with adding the Wild Honey. It has kind of that effortless ombre look from one color into another, and by keeping the brush moving in a circular pattern, that's going to really help give you that smooth look. It's really starting to blend nicely right now. Next we're going to move on to adding some of the oranges and then blending the yellows together with those. To start, we're going to use Spice Marmalade, and we're going to try to concentrate our oranges from the center downward. We really want to keep that transitional yellow at the top. So here you see an orange brush, and this is really for oranges and rusts. That's what I use this brush for. I'm adding a little bit of the Spice Marmalade to the very bottom, although I am going to concentrate this particular color a little bit more towards the center of the card, being sure to keep it popping around where it's transitioning in with the Wild Honey. It's starting to look really nice. I love the transition between the oranges and the yellows. I'm also going to definitely bring some of the Wild Honey back in to help intensify the orange hues, as well as continue to layer more yellow onto the top. As you work from darker to lighter colors, you do want to make sure, especially going from orange to yellow, that you're switching your brush out, or you're also brushing it off to clean it up a little bit, just like that. Get some of that more intense color off. So here is the Ripe Persimmon, and this is a dark, deep orange. So we're going to add that a little bit more towards the bottom third of our project. You can see that intense color at the bottom. We're also going to end up bringing in some Barn Door, which is a true red, at the very bottom, so you want to keep in mind that you want a little bit of area for orange leading into the red. And it's all just going to intensify that ombre look and as you transition from one color to another. So we've switched back to our yellow brush, and we're just going to bring in some of that wild honey, as I said earlier. And this is going to deepen the orange color and really help to kind of blend it all together so that it looks effortless. It is such a beautiful transition between these shades. You can also add greens at the bottom as well. You can try lots of different colors. A rust would be very pretty, or even going into some browns. The key is you want to keep the colors a little bit warm so that they all kind of have the same matching tone. Because I'm switching some of the colors quickly and going from darks to lights, you'll see me now brush my stipple brush off onto a microfiber rag, and this is really just to help clear some of that orange that it may be pulling, or whatever color that it's working with. I just want to keep it true, and I'll, even as I go back into my mustard seed, which is my true lightest shade, I will switch into another stipple brush that is just pure yellow, because I don't want to have any orange on it or any darker hues. Really, I just want to keep that nice and light up there at the top. So we're now coming towards the end of adding color to our project here, and you can see I'm just really assessing it where I need to bring in maybe some more oranges or yellows. This is the barn door, and I'm taking my orangish rust brush and I'm adding just a little tiny bit at the bottom here. You can see that I'm really working it around so that I have a transition and it's not concentrated in one spot. And you can see it's really not going down red. Because I have all those yellows underneath and the orange, it's really a true layer where it's just creating an intense, deep, almost rustish orange. So here is some of the wild honey so that we create that blend even more. And you can see I'm just really trying to warm it up a little. Wild honey is a great color to use, same as mustard seed, to blend everything. So here's the big reveal. We're going to pull that off. Look at how amazing that looks. I love faux torn edges. They're so striking on cards. A great blend here. Great ombre look. And you can see it's really effortless. It looks so natural. I love it. So from here we're going to add some more details and richness and some other layer to this particular piece. Look at that beautiful edge. I love that edge. Absolutely gorgeous. So next what we're going to do is we're going to dry this a little bit. So I'm taking a heat tool to it. I just want to make sure that it's dry because we are going to add a background, and we'll dry that a little bit, and then we're going to do a little bit of embossing. And we don't want the embossing powder to stick to everything, and Distress ink stays wet for a while. So here I have French script. This is a retired Stampin' Up! Stamp, but I love this stamp. You can use either of these, Walnut Stain Distress. I'm going to use the Stampin' Up! Early Espresso. I love this color. One of my favorite colors. And we're just going to add it to one side of the stamp, and I'm going to lightly stamp over the part that I colored. But first we want to lay our mask back down. I of course took mine away so that you could see it. You obviously wouldn't take it away. You'd leave it, do the next step before moving on. So we're going to lay that back down just to make sure that it's completely covered, and then we're going to go ahead and lightly touch our background stamp to it. Normally I like to use my background stamps upside down, but this way I don't care if it's perfect. I'm actually looking for it to not be perfect, so I'm just lightly touching it. See how I have some missing gaps? And that's really the look that I was going for. I wasn't going for a complete perfect image. So it just adds a little detail. Now I also have another sample that I'll have at the end here, and you'll see that I also used a stencil on that as well. Sorry for the fuzzy camera, it went out of focus there for a second. I used an embossing buddy to help destatic. I'm just testing to see if it's sticking anywhere, and it's pretty much not. If it was sticking, I would need to dry it a little bit more with my heat tool before moving on to the next step. So now we have the hand lettered thanks, and I love the stamp set by W+9. I'm going to use that big thanks at the top, and my intention was originally to add a little bit more at the bottom. It was going to say thanks, you're the best, or something like that, but I got my S a little too low, so I was unable to do that, so it just says thanks. So I'm using some Versamark, which is a watermark pigment pad, and we're just going to have that go across And then we're going to next add the S, and we're going to end up embossing this in some espresso embossing powder, also by Stampin' Up. It's a very beautiful, deep, warm brown. So now that we have that down, you can also do the thank and then emboss it and then add the S if you wanted to. I happen to be able to see it very well. If you can't see it, I would do it that way. And we'll just quickly zap that with a gun. When you're embossing, you want to make sure that your gun is heated first, especially when doing a one-layer card. You don't really want your paper to be crazy warped, and the best way to avoid that is to heat up your gun, which I did, for about 30 seconds before even bringing it to my project. That way it's super hot and you're spending the least amount of time on your card. And also heat it by both sides, front and back. And that will also help to get that image melted faster. So you can see here is another one that I did that's not a one layer. I popped it up, but you can see how that S was a little higher, so I was able to add that greeting there in a straight line. My S was just a little too low, but that's okay. And here's one with the green that I was talking about. So it had a little bit more of an orangish transition. It was supposed to be yellow at the top, but I went too high with my orange. And I don't know if you can see, but I added a stencil as well in a dark orange there. Definitely check out our blog. We have a great free exclusive Creative Tips newsletter with an exclusive video series that you will not find here on YouTube. Check out these couple videos if you haven't seen these tutorials already, and definitely hit that subscribe button to stay on top of all the latest fresh content that we add here at the Creative Grove. And I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Bye-bye.